Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Demi Glace Part 2. That's right, as promised, this is the second half, or should I say second demi, of our epic two-part series on how to make demi glaze. Or as thousands of French people on the YouTube comments from the first part are insisting I pronounce it, Demi Glace. Demi Glace. Demi Glace. That's not that hard, I think I got it. But anyway, like I said, this is the second half of how to make demi glaze. And just in case you missed it, in the first episode, we made a beautiful brown veal stock, which was then reduced down to about 3 quarts of product, which is what you're looking at right here. And we ended the last video by chilling this down and refrigerating it until needed. So let's go ahead and pull it out, take off the lid, and see what we got. And if everything's gone according to plan, you should have something that resembles brown rubber. And by the way, remember in part 1, where I said not to worry about skimming all the fat off the top? Here's why. When this stuff cools down, it's very easy to scrape that off the surface, and this way we don't even lose 1 drop of demi. So I'll go ahead and remove that at some point, but for now let's go ahead and dig in with the spoon so I can show you what this looks like a little better. And what's happened here is all that connective tissue from our bones has been reduced and concentrated to such an extent that it is now completely gelatinized. And I really hope that's a word. So you can get a pretty good idea here what it's supposed to look like. But to really illustrate the point, I'm going to place some parchment paper down on my cutting board, and then let's turn this mother out. And by the way, the parchment paper is just so I don't have to clean the board. But anyway, let's liberate that from our container so I can show you what I think is the perfect level of jiggliness. And the best way to illustrate that, of course, is the old slappa, which you got a sneak preview of in part 1. Although the YouTube censors did ask me to remove the audio, apparently most people found it very inappropriate, yet somewhat arousing. And if you're thinking to yourself that did sound inappropriate, although I bet it wouldn't be as bad if he sped up the video, well, it's actually even worse. But anyway, enough fooling around. And at this point, I'm going to show you how I like to portion and store my demi glaze for future use. So what I like to do is cut this across, just like this, into like 4 equal pieces. And then I'll take each of those sections and cut it into 4 pieces. And that will give me 16 portions of what's enough for approximately 2 servings. It's going to depend on what we're using it in, of course, or what kind of sauce we're going to turn it into. Then I'll wrap those individually in plastic and then place those into a zip-top bag, which can then be frozen almost indefinitely. So I find this method really works well for me. But you could just freeze it all in one big chunk and just kind of chop off pieces as you need them. Up to you. You guys are the demi-moors of your demi stores. So I'm sure you'll figure it out. And at this point, if you're thinking, hey, I didn't tune into part 2 to watch some guy with hairy knuckles cut up beef jello, well, I could not agree more. So let me show you the simplest and probably my favorite way to use this to create a simple but amazing pan sauce after cooking some meat. So step 1, fry some meat in a pan. This is a piece of hanger steak, but it could be any other kind of steak, or pork chop, or chicken breast. And once the meat's cooked, all we need to do is throw in a chunk of demi glaze. And I'm just going to do a single portion, which would be about half one of those blocks we made. And really all you need to do is toss it in and reduce it by about half. And like any kind of liquid we put into a saute pan, it's going to melt that fond off the bottom, all that caramelized goodness. And once that's happened, and like I said, it's reduced by roughly half, or to your desired consistency, we'll turn off the heat, and that's it. Except for one very major step. Remember, this demi is not seasoned. No salt, no pepper, no nothing. So I'm going to put a pinch of salt and a little bit of freshly ground black pepper, and we'll stir that around. And believe it or not, that's it. We'll simply spoon that over our meat, and even in its most primitive form, just simply reduce with salt and pepper. It is such an unbelievably fantastic sauce. Until you actually experience this yourself, you really can't understand the magnitude of its perfection. In addition to its intensely savory flavor, it also has this incredibly luxurious mouthfeel, kind of halfway between sticky and silky. That's just to die for. And by the way, this is one of those recipes where I mean that literally. So like I said, this is the simplest way to use it, but believe you me, we are definitely going to use this stuff in some incredible sauce recipes. I'm thinking we might start with bordelaise, but we'll see. And sure, this takes a little effort. You have to go to a real butcher shop and find veal bones. And it's true, it does take a few days to put together, but the amount of actual work involved is just a few minutes. All right? So I really do hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.